Okay, I get it. You might be saying to me, what's so special about being able to type quickly? Mr. Salles, I'm pretty good with most of my fingers. I use predictive sex. Give me a break. I use predictive text. Give me a break. But no, touch typing is the way to go. So let's deal first with the speed. Speed obviously allows you to get your essays done much more quickly, or your revision notes, or let's say you're taking notes in a lesson or a lecture. You will never regret being able to type at greater speed. Like, what would be the problem with that? Now, this is completely different to normal typing, where the brain is engaged with where the keys are and correcting mistakes. And this means you don't think about the content. And if you fail to think about the content, you stop learning. And studies show that students who use handwriting in their notes make better progress than students who simply type. And that's because those students were not touch typing. They had to think about what they were doing, and therefore their brain was using useful memory and energy thinking about the wrong stuff. Now, the next huge advantage of touch typing is what life is going to be like in the job market. Believe it or not, you will spend at least 2 or 3 hours of your day dealing with emails or writing reports. That's just the way the world has gone. And that's why I learnt to touch type when I was only 18. God knows how many years ago, before computers even existed, because I knew the hours I would save on my essays and in my job. Okay, this is me touch typing at about 60 words per minute. I could go faster if I were copying, but I'm not. I'm having to think up my ideas on the spot. And I've made it even more difficult because I'm using the keyboard on my iPad, which is constrained. Imagine Hagrid trying to eat a tiny meal using a tiny knife and fork, hunched up, stooped over, and uncomfortable. But nevertheless, here the words flow. So in 2 hours a day for 14 days, I made the best investment of my life. Now, about 20 years ago, when the internet was just a thing, a new thing, I remember saying to a colleague, we must teach the students in our school to touch type. And he said, why would you do that? That's insane. In a couple of years' time, we'll be able to do voice recognition. We will dictate everything. Well, it didn't happen. It's happened now. And I'm going to tell you why you should learn to dictate, but not instead of touch typing. Because every office environment you will go to, every job you will have, will make it nearly impossible for you to dictate. People no longer work in private, isolated offices. However, for your private moments, being able to dictate is amazing. So this is me dictating to my iPad, and obviously I've sped it up so that you don't get too bored. This whole thing took me about 3 minutes, just under, which is pretty good. When you check it out, you'll see that there are hardly any mistakes, so this would not require much editing. And notice how I'm nailing all my punctuation and my paragraphing. So you really do develop real skills in terms of organisation, grouping your ideas together and thinking really clearly when you learn to dictate. And look how long it is compared to my touch typing. Because when you train yourself to dictate, you train yourself to think. And when you think about it, you can't write something that you can't think. So improving your thinking skills is a fundamental benefit. Dictation allows you to do that because you suddenly start thinking in sentences and connected ideas. It takes some rehearsal. At first you can't do this, it's hard. And that of course is a clue as to how beneficial it will be when you master it, because mastering difficult thinking makes you a better thinker. You'll find that you suddenly anticipate all the punctuation that you need in order to make yourself clear. Your punctuation will suddenly skyrocket as a skill. But then of course is the way that you link ideas together will be far more advanced. You will become more coherent and more persuasive in your arguments because you can think without having to pause. Initially, this does not happen. Initially, you learn to draft and revise and rethink, and that makes you a better thinker and a better learner. The ability to dictate also takes away that horrible fear of the blank page. Oh, I don't know where to start. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll just start with my first idea, record my speech as I go, and then as I get into the flow, the better ideas will come to me, and they will also record on paper in perfect text and font. It then becomes super easy to get cracking on what you want to do. My favourite example of this was my daughter last year, training to be a teacher, had to write a 3,000-word essay on a topic that gave her no interest whatsoever. And I said, Jess, just tell me what you want to say. She gave it to me in her words. I splurted them out in perfect grammar, and in an hour and a half we'd written a 3,000-word essay. Well, obviously she had to go back and edit it and change it, but the job of work was virtually done simply by talking. And once she could clarify her ideas out loud, writing it was a doddle. Dictate.